Yesterday, a woman by the name of Amanda Staples, who ran for Senate and lost roughly 10 years ago, accused former President Bush 41, George H.W. Bush, George Bush Sr., Bush the Elder, of touching her in the midst of their interactions while he was campaigning for her. She is notable for now being the fifth woman to come forward with allegations against the former president. And this follows a week of accusations made toward him. Now, I have in the past remained mum on most of these charges because I'm a person who's had things accused and alleged of them as well. So there's this tendency to not really rally to a person when they're being the accuser, and I guess try to have a neutral stance because I don't know what happened. But this one and all of the other accusations made toward him give me a large feeling of doubt, and that's backed by a couple of ideas. One being that he's been famous for 60 years, ever since he was in the he ran for his first office in the 60s, and at no point during a relatively lengthy career, both in office and after leaving office, had anyone accused him of actually doing anything to them of this magnitude. Another thing that backs it up is the timing. Now we're obviously having the Weinstein thing go on, and that's something that has more, it has much more ground to stand on. But this doesn't. It's very difficult for me to believe that people who saw the um, believability of the Weinstein allegations are not just going after the older Bush because, hey, that's a famous man that I can, allege as having done this. It's hard for me to believe based off those two things. I give them a lot of credibility when it comes to other subjects. Maybe it is my bias in favor of the older Bush that causes me to feel that way. But I think my reason for thinking he didn't do it is still backed by um, facts, which are that he was never accused of this in the past. You go and you look at Clinton and Trump. With Clinton, he had charges against him from back before he was even president. It's the same thing with Trump. They go back, they're dated from the past. They admitted to certain acts, obviously, on recordings. Clinton admitted to Lewinsky. Trump admitted to on the Access Hollywood tape. My point is that there was credibility and rationale to believe those two people could walk around and do this stuff, and you could actually buy the idea of them actually going after a person. But the charges up until this last one were all set of Bush while he's been in a wheelchair. And I'm supposed to believe this man, at the age of 89 or 90, decided to exploit his ailment and just start laying his fingers everywhere. As I've said before, because I really don't want this to be seen as some men's right drivel. I'm here with the stated proclamation of treating this with neutrality while also expressing my views on it in the sense that while I can confirm I don't know, I just don't feel that this is really much of anything at all. I don't think he did this stuff, and if they actually, and I know I'm aware of the statement that came out a couple of days ago where there's some light tap that he does to backs because his arm is supposedly too weak to stay up on a person. And there's also that, and that's what's bothering me so much. It feels as if the people who are alleging this are devoid of thinking, well, how am I going to see the world, or what's my mental state going to be at 89 or 90 as he is, or 93 rather at this point. But during these charges he's in his 80s, and I just have this hard time believing someone that's that old. There are people obviously who stay intact at that point, but that it seems a very plausible excuse or a rationale, and he apologized for it. I mean, I'm not saying that just makes up for everything, but what else can he do at this point? That's really what just seems to be this fundamental disconnect, that we're going to allege you did something, people have no proof of you doing it other than some pictures of them standing next to you. And it's enough for someone to say, yeah, he did it. I don't like him, so automatically he did it. And I really have grown pretty distasteful of Mr. Telesford, Mr. Hey. I've grown relatively distasteful of the accusations that are being made on the part of just a lot of people. And they're typically done without, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Ba'ab or something to that effect. They're being done with the charge that, okay, well, there's enough proof because you can prove that there's a picture of me with him, but can you actually prove that he grabbed someone? And really, this kind of scares me because while I like to believe that people are not all out to get you or to go and try things, I mean, look at what we've seen over the last couple of days. You can believe the Weinstein stuff. You can believe the NBC host stuff. But now we're asking you to believe that this man who can't walk, who is in very poor physical health, is having decided... No, he's 93. Mr. Hey. Well, the first allegation was in 2014 when he was 84 to 90. He can't even grab a ball. Hey, that's my point. See, but again, with the other presidents that have had this behavior alleged, it's been while they were younger, while they were able to run around, they've been able to walk around. You can go and look up the Clinton and Trump files on this stuff. They have a level of believability that this just doesn't have. And I truly believe the charges that are being made against him, because if you notice, a lot of those women that went after Weinstein, for example, Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow, they actually are they have nothing to gain from making those charges. Look at every woman accusing the older Bush right now. What do they have? And I'm not saying that automatically if you're not famous, you have no charge. No, what I'm conveying here is if there is a series of women coming forward and all of them are kind of at the bottom and they're not really they've never, even if they, so this is where the narrative gets broken. You can't tell me that in a society where we've gone through multiple people being ousted over allegations made against them for harassment, you just now gain the courage to go after him following 70 people coming after another person. I can't be the only one that thinks that way. And I think what we saw with the, I hate to make this political, but it kind of is, with the election, with Trump winning after the Hollywood Access tape came out, is that there is a sizable portion of at least people in the U.S. that are just tired of, he did this, he did that, this person did this, this person did that. And mind you, that's with proof, or rather a statement by Trump saying, yes, I did this on the Access Hollywood tape. But I'm very convinced that the older Bush, if he did this, it was not intentional. I can't buy it. I don't believe it. And hopefully the people who are, I guess, regular watchers of my content, if you can call it yourselves that, will also subscribe to that belief. Again, remember this. All of these charges, it's not like Cosby where it's said to be 50 or 40 years ago. All of these charges have been in the last 11 years. Bush has been in his 80s during this entire period. So let that tell you something. That he wasn't fresh. Hey, no, I'm not saying that at all, but what was his health, I don't remember him being confined. I'm not saying that to, get smart with you, but I don't remember, to my knowledge, him being confined to a wheelchair or having health that prevented him from being able to walk around. And from the woman he was married, I don't recall her saying that he did anything to her or making any allegations of assault in virtue of him. So yeah, they're making some kind of supercharged version of that now where you can just keep on getting all giddy. No, it's a suppressed version, so you don't feel anything throughout your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and then when you get to your 80s, you just have to start touching, can't stop, must touch, can't stop, must touch, can't stop, Must touch. That's apparently what their mentality is, or what I'm supposed to believe or otherwise consider. There would be no assault when married. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know what way you mean that. Although we have a pretty interesting correlation where a person will be with someone and after they break up, they'll say they did something to them, and the argument is always, well, if this person was truly so horrible, why didn't you say anything about them before you ended your romantic interactions with them? So it's a pretty interesting dynamic where you have this man who, as I keep people need to remember this, he has been famous since Johnson was in the White House, and no charges in that whole span of decades. We're talking the year the Beatles came out. That's how long ago he started his, I guess, ascension to being a national figure. Well, he was a representative at that point. What I'm conveying here is that he's been in the public realm for decades, and I just refuse to believe that he decided is what I yeah that he decided to have this transformation at age 89 or 86 or whichever age that they're saying it's been within the 2000s. He was 77 in 2076, yeah, because I know that he turned 70 in 94, 80 in 2004, and then 90 in 2014. So all of these charges have been within his 80s and 90s, and I don't buy that he's now in his last, I guess what people are calling, and which is, by the way, it's kind of messed up to just keep saying someone is getting ready to pass on or whatever. I'm sorry, but I don't enjoy that type of rhetoric. I like to believe that if we take care of ourselves, we can live as long as we choose to, in the realm of health, to lose but his life, which is, so he's going for it. Yeah, but even if you have that idea, which I don't, keep in mind, you really, it's hard for me to believe that you're going to be married for 70 years, be in public office for decades, and just now decide I'm going to, start grabbing people while I'm standing next to them in pictures or sitting next to them in pictures. So I have a hard time believing. And also, if you guys are familiar with Shapiro, who is my antithesis in political views, but he's a very smart man. One of the things he said during his reporting on this story is that when you get in your 90s and late 80s, you might experience dementia. He's basically saying that Bush could be having this thing where his mind isn't all the way there, and so he feels a tendency to grab out. And I actually am very much considering of that theory, because all of these allegations have been in his 80s and 90s. And I can recall going to a nursing home at one point, and there was a man in a wheelchair who pointed at me and then tried to grab for me. Now I didn't think it was anything, of any I guess salacious or evil intent, but I noticed it, and he was trying to reach out. I didn't think of it as anything bad other than his mind maybe isn't all the way there. People get older, they're not able to control everything anymore. And I know someone might link that married some and for on hit make it just he's going, that's how it's gonna be. Um, yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. They're gonna say that he's not all the way there and he'll get off. And I'm not. I don't think this is that big of a deal. Again, if and I hate to say it, I know I'm gonna get flack for it, but he's in a wheelchair. If you think he's gonna do something to you from this point onward, stay away from him. That's it. Forget what happened in the past. It happened. Well, not forget it, but use it as a learning lesson or a curve to just make sure if you're with him in a picture, step a couple of inches away. The worst he can do is roll to you. So I don't see the problem here, at least in terms of it being if not being able to avoid his attempts, if that makes any type of sense. Lastly, before I get off, one thing of major note is that, and I really do want people to start noticing this correlation. whenever you have a person that has a history of doing something, just stay away. Yeah, whenever you have a history of a person with a history of doing something, it usually spans a large course of time. You're friendly and mistakenly pat. That's what I'm saying. I don't buy that in his later years he's now decided to transform into this some predator. I don't buy it. And I hope that we'll find out more about this and maybe get some more statements and figure out. I just hate that you go through all of life and now at tail end. This is the kind of stuff that really makes me just want to retreat into this bubble and not interact with anyone, not try to branch out, not try to be assistant or helpful or friendly in any type of way as far as physical contact is concerned. You're gonna tell me that I'm susceptible to someone saying I'm going to do something to you, and it's not really a topic I want to have perpetuated on my public image, especially that late in my life. I mean, I'm fairly convinced that I won't even live to 93 based off of circumstantial decision things around here. So it's all saddening, and I'm not very good at epilogues, so you have to forgive me. So I'll have something else up either tonight or tomorrow, and we'll go from there and discuss that. So I'll cut this out or cut this off. The topic will be in the title as this one was, and we'll see what happens.